Okay, I'm back with the second half of the questions. So we've got 20 people down and 20 more people to go. So let's see. Number 21 is Daisuke0123 asks, do you watch or collect any anime? And if so, what's your current favorite? Let's see. No. No, I don't. I don't actually watch anime. I'm not a fan of anime. I don't particularly dislike anime. I just don't watch any. I don't have any that I particularly am into, and I'm not particularly attracted to searching any out. So, I guess no, I don't have any. I'm not an anime fan. So, it's kind of sorry. Let's see. Number 22, GX2 Productions asks, what are your thoughts on the rumor going around that Microsoft will be blocking used games on their next Xbox? Let's see. If it's actually true, which I'm not sure about, I think it's a bad idea. But what it'll do is it'll kind of ruin a whole generation of games, and not like in the sense that they'll be ruined. I mean, you can still play them if you buy them. It's just that 10 years from now, when if you hadn't heard about this game and you want to play it 10 years later, you won't have the option because obviously that stuff won't be in print anymore. You won't be able to pick it up at a store, and that's a kind of bad idea. Only for the sense like, it makes no sense to have a disc that's useless somewhere in the future. It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, there's tons of great games that I've played that came out 10 years ago that I just didn't get around to, and that I've only played recently that I think are great. And to lose that option is kind of a bad idea, which is one of the main reasons I don't like a kind of no used games rule. Just, I mean, it would ruin a lot of things for developers too, I think. I mean, anything that's like a cult hit would not be a cult hit. I mean, you'd have no way to buy it. You'd no way to play it. So it would ruin a lot of smaller developers, I think. And it'd be great for Call of Duty, which everyone can buy, but not so great for something like I don't know, a company like Atlas who doesn't print enough of anything ever. And if you couldn't get it used, you'd never be able to play half their games. And in a sense, they wouldn't be able to sell any new games either because they wouldn't get as many new fans. It's just a mess. The whole idea is a bad idea, I think. So, yeah. So let's see. Number 23, the 8-Bit Theater, the Asian Guy Gamer, asks, would you ever move back to the States? I don't have any reason to not move back to the States. I'm not a wanted criminal or anything. But I don't have any reason to move back either. So, my family is kind of all spread out, and my friends have all moved to different states. And if I moved back to the U.S., I don't really have a place I want to go. I guess I'd have to go to New York City because, it's probably the best place to be. But besides like moving to New York, I don't really have a centralized area to go to where I'd be comfortable, where I could be like, oh, this is just like home, because that kind of stuff is gone for me. So, yeah, I guess I would move back if, I lost my visa for some reason. But yeah, until then, I'm just staying in Japan. Let's see. He also asks, if you saw Luke Morse 1 at Hard Off, would you give him a hug for me, and then yell out, "This guy's recording in your store"? I might do one of those things. Probably. When I think about it, I don't really watch Luke's channel. I'm not subscribed to it or anything. But occasionally I see videos, but I don't think I'd ever run into Luke because he obviously doesn't live near in Tokyo, like downtown Tokyo where I live, because he goes to Hard Off all the time. I mean, the closest Hard Off to my apartment is about an hour and a half away, Um, they're just not in Tokyo. They're all like in the outskirts of Tokyo, the outer areas, not the main 23 area, but the outer areas like Hachioji and stuff. Like those places are like kind of barely Tokyo, I think. But they're Tokyo, but barely so. But he must live out there because he's always going to Hard Off. But I live way downtown, and I never go to Hard Off because it's really hard to get there, and probably not worth the effort. So I doubt I'd ever run into him. Let's see. Number 24, JSY 2000 asks, "What's your favorite Japanese Dreamcast game?" I have a couple, but I'm gonna go with Sega Gaga, just because it's so. It's like a. I mean, it's like a bizarre love letter to Sega fans, and it's a good one. I like that, like Alex Kidd is in it, and like all these like weird Sega characters, and you have like, kind of real life people as bosses and stuff. It's just weird, and like if you're a Sega fan, it's the kind of game like you really would love. And so I like that game, and the El Dorado series on the Dreamcast. It's maybe 8 discs, but I think it's just one story on 8 discs, split between 8 discs, so it's like sold separately in chapters or something. Um, that's a really good series, and I don't think it's that expensive to get the whole set either. So, I mean, but it's an RPG, so probably impossible to play if you don't know Japanese. But yeah, those two are pretty good choices. Everything else I think that I can think of is also released in the U.S. I played a lot of the Dreamcast, but mostly fighting games and RPGs and stuff. But like Shenmue and stuff, Shenmue 2, those are all great, but they're not just Japanese. So let's see. Number 25, TB46667 asks, "Do you encounter any racism in Japan?" I have. That's happened before. Um, I'm not gonna really go into it, but sometimes some stuff has happened. Not like crazy stuff where like I get beat up by a group of hooded individuals or whatever. It's not nothing like that, but just little things that you notice every once in a while. But nothing super major. I know I have friends who have had like some like pretty blatant racism lodged at them, but I haven't had any. Not blatant, at least. I've had some kind of not so blatant racism. But he also asks, "What are your other hobbies besides gaming?" Here's like a channel trivia. Originally, this channel wasn't gonna be a gaming channel. It was supposed to be a cooking channel. I originally had planned to do a cooking show, but I never got around to getting a camera quick. I didn't get a camera quick enough to do it, and I just wanted to make some videos about something because I wanted to do it, but I couldn't do the cooking show because I only had the laptop, and I couldn't shoot the videos correctly. So I figure I might do the cooking show still, but not on this channel. I mean, I'll just make a new channel for that. But yeah, cooking is one of them. I'm a pretty. I don't know. I don't know how to say. I'm like not a chef, but I did do like some kind of chef training, so I can cook a lot of stuff, and I like cooking, and I like making my own recipes and making my own dishes and stuff. So cooking is another one. I also do special effects and makeup, which sometimes is a job, but sometimes mostly I just do for fun. And I have a bunch of masks and things that I make, and half masks and wounds and stuff like that. I can do basic special effects makeup, so that kind of stuff is pretty cool. And then I don't know. I do a bunch of other stuff. I collect DVDs and books. I read a lot, so I don't know. That kind of stuff is my general hobbies. I think I do a bunch of other stuff, but I used to train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I did that for a couple of years, 4 or 5 years, and I used to do that every day. Well, not every day, but probably 4 times a week for about 4 hours a day for a couple years, so I'm not a bad JiuJitsu player, as they say. uh, but yeah, I used to do that, but I haven't done that recently. Last time I did it, actually, I broke ribs, so I didn't break them. I just cracked them, so couldn't do jujitsu for a couple of months, and then I just haven't gone back since then. So yeah. So number 26, we have NVM56789 asks, what class, software, learning tool did you take or use to get proficient in speaking Japanese? I just used standard flashcards and textbooks for my Japanese language class. So, I mean, I just went to an intensive language school, basically. That was it. I mean, I had to use Japanese all the time. All the classes were taught entirely in Japanese. Nobody at the school could speak English. So, you learn pretty quickly that way. So, let's see. Number 27, A Murphy 245. Another good YouTuber. If you haven't checked him out, definitely do so. What is the scariest game you've played? Now that's hard because I play a lot of horror games. Like, I love horror games, but I'm not usually scared by them. I've been a huge horror fan since I was a little kid, and you know, I'm kind of desensitized to horror at this point. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the original Silent Hill, not because it's probably pretty scary, but I played it with a friend originally, and he was freaking out through the whole thing. We were playing it at his apartment together, and every time something weird would happen, he'd be like jumping out of his chair and like yelling and stuff. It was pretty awesome. Like, it was really fun to play that. It wasn't scary for me, but I thought like it was really fun to play with somebody who was scared by it. So I'll go with Silent Hill, the first one, just because of that experience. Let's see. Number 28, Consoletronics asks, what do you miss most from home? Simple answer, Drake's coffee cakes. That's it. If you have a box of those, it's about this big, you can send it on my way, because I will eat those. So Drake's coffee cakes, please send boxes. Many, many boxes of Drake's coffee cakes. They don't even sell those everywhere in the US, I don't think, but if you're from the Northeast in the US, you know Drake's coffee cakes, and you should love them. Or you're wrong. That's it. It's subjective, but you're still wrong. So, let's see. Number 29, the Sainted Magnus Show asks a bunch of questions here. How can someone like myself be able to move to and live in Japan? I don't know. No, the easiest way, I think, for non-Japanese speakers to move to Japan is to come as an English teacher. And of course, the downside to that is that you need a college degree to be able to become an English teacher. But if you have any degree in anything, you can come. I think if you're not from the US, you can get like a working holiday visa, and then you can work as an English teacher anyway, I think. Depends on the situation, but that seems right. So if you just wanted to come for a year or something, you could come on a working holiday. Or if you wanted to come for a long time, you could, finish college and then come as an English teacher. And that's the easiest way. It's really easy to do that. So that's my suggestion. And let's see. He also asked, what are the main differences with the gaming trends from the East compared to the West? Let's see. A lot of the differences between Japanese games and like Western games, I'd say, is that Japanese games are developed on a smaller scale for the most part. And I say that, I mean, there are huge companies that develop on a huge scale, like, Final Fantasy game isn't created by a small team, but Capcom is a huge company and they make good games with large teams. But they also make good games with smaller teams. And I think the idea for the Japanese gaming, scene, I guess, it would be that lots of smaller developers make games for smaller systems, and they're fine with selling 20,000 copies only. It's fine for them. And what that does is it lets smaller developers take more risks. So in Japan, you'll get like games that are crazy. You get, I just reviewed Akiba's Trip, which is a game about stripping clothes off people until they turn to ash. There's, there's lots of wacky concepts that get, thrown out to people because they're, they're not worried about, beating Call of Duty or whatever. The tastes between Japanese gamers and Western gamers are different. So, first-person shooters are, it's not that nobody buys them. It's just that they're not as popular as, many other types of games. And, the types of things that people like, the art styles that people like are different. The general systems that people like are different. If you were a Western developer and you weren't developing for, the Xbox 360, you've eliminated a lot of sales. And unless you're like being paid by Sony to do that, you're probably, losing some sales. But if you're a Japanese developer, you don't even have to worry about it most of the time because, it's not like the 360 is selling like hotcakes over here. So you could make a PS3 exclusive and be fine. And the same with, systems like the PSP, where it's not as popular outside of Japan, but, companies still make tons of games for it, and they make a killing because, they know the market. And I like that about Japanese games, is that they're more willing to take chances, which seems weird because, you'd think Western developers would be doing that, but they're not. They're not so much, not on consoles at least. So, yeah, that's my main take on it. And he also asked, if you could be in any manga or anime, which one and why? Well, I don't actually watch any anime, so I couldn't really answer that. But manga, I occasionally read. The problem is I read almost entirely horror manga. So I don't want to be in any of those because all of those would end with me dying in some horrible way. And I don't like that. So I'm looking at my manga right now. I have it in a bookshelf here, but I'll go with this one as one that would be cool to be in. That's Detroit Metal City. So if I could, be in Detroit Metal City, that would be pretty cool. Just to, I wouldn't even have to be Crows, or it could be like some side band, whatever. That would be cool. It wouldn't be a bad manga. It's wacky and fun. So let's see. Number 30. Hashiria Z asks, what is the one game you were after in Japan but have yet to find? I don't know. I think everything that I have on my list of games to buy, I can find. It's just, some of it's expensive, or some of it I just don't have the money to buy or have the time to play at the moment, so I haven't bought it yet. I'm not incredibly, searching for rare stuff. Not at the moment, at least. There are a bunch of rare things that I want eventually, but I'm not even thinking about it. And they're almost all in the PC Engine. So, yeah. I can't think of anything. Sorry. Let's see. Number 31. Number 31 here is Point Blank Games. In Point Blank Games, another good channel to check out. But he asked three questions. So got a bit from Point Blank here. If you could change one thing in your life, what would that be and why? So I'd probably change my job, and not to a different type of job, but just to a different. I'd like to work with games, so that would be cool. Just the same type of job, but game related instead of what I actually do. So that would be probably easiest for me. It's not like a huge change. I could probably actually do that with some luck, but something to work for in the future. And let's see. He also asks, what 3 things do you miss the most from the U.S.? Okay, again, Drake's Coffee Cakes. If you got any of those, send them my way. But 2 other things. Mostly, I don't know. There's not much I can think of anymore. I miss cheap prices for stuff. I miss the people I could meet in the U.S. So, I miss my friends, of course, and I miss being able to go places like New York and Boston with relative ease and hanging out with people there. That's generally it. I don't miss a whole lot because most of the stuff I can get here. I miss good Mexican food. There's none in Japan. I haven't found any, at least. I found some mediocre Mexican food, but no good Mexican food, so it's kind of a mess. But yeah, so I'll go with those. And last question from PBG is if you could take any fighting game and turn it into an RPG, what game would you choose and how would it play? Um, you know, you know what I always wanted to do was make a pro wrestling RPG. It wouldn't have to be serious, but the characters would be all pro wrestlers, and you could have like a kind of pro wrestling universe or world. I think it would be cool to have a pro wrestling RPG where you could run around and have impromptu wrestling matches throughout a town or something. It would be pretty cool. I think it would have to play something like the Yakuza series, but it would be pretty great to just randomly people come out of shops and cut a promo on you. That would be pretty awesome. I would enjoy that. So pro wrestling RPG. Wouldn't have to be WWE or anything. It could just be Legends of Pro Wrestling, the RPG, or it could just be Random Pro Wrestling, the RPG. I don't know. Any of that would be good. So let's see. Number 32, Lord Nikon 76 asks, what made you want to go to Japan to start with? Originally, I just wanted to check out Tokyo. So I came here as a tourist, and then I studied abroad here because in college I studied Japanese Buddhist art as my major. So I studied in Japan to go to places related to Japanese Buddhist art. And, I just enjoy being here, so I stayed. That's pretty much it. And he asks, are PC Engine games easy to find in Japan? And what is your favorite PC Engine game? PC Engine games are relatively easy to find. They're not as easy to find as Nintendo stuff, but they're not totally uncommon. They're just not incredibly common. So yeah, I'll go with that. And my favorite PC Engine game, that's hard. I have a lot that I really like for the PC Engine, but I'm gonna go with something generic. I think I'm gonna go with either Cosmic Fantasy 2 or I don't know, the original Splatterhouse. I think I played way more than anybody should have. So Splatterhouse or Cosmic Fantasy 2 is a good one. Or Bonk's Adventure is another great one that I've played way more than a normal person should. But those are all pretty good for me. So let's see. Number 33, IV Pepe 38, who is Hacker 727, I believe, also. But yeah, let's see. He asks, what got you into gaming and collecting? Originally, I started gaming as a little kid, so I went to my cousin's house and played the Atari 2600, and we had an Atari 5200 at home later on. And yeah, from there, moved on to the Nintendo and every system since then. So that, and he asked what got into collecting. Well, collecting was something that just happened naturally from wanting to play some old games. So I started collecting probably sometime in 1996 or 1997 or so, and maybe a little earlier than that even, but generally it was just actually probably in high school I started collecting last gen stuff. So what happened was my friend had a Game Gear, and we got the Sega Master System converter for it. So those were Sega Master System games weren't all that common, and they were last gen at that point. So we were always searching for retro games at that point, mostly Sega Master System, but also when we were looking for those, I'd find Nintendo games that I hadn't played or really wanted to play but couldn't buy and stuff like that. So I started collecting back then. And then from there, after I started to have more money, I started getting more into it. So bought a ton of stuff and off of eBay and stuff when I was in the U.S. But yeah, that kind of set me off, just wanting to play some of the old stuff that I hadn't had an opportunity to play when I was younger. So let's see, number 34, The Green Monkey King, and also another good channel. But he asked a couple questions. Do you collect any of the lesser-known consoles, such as the SuperGrafx or PCFX or X68000? I have everything for the SuperGrafx. There's only like 5 exclusive games for it. It's not like a hard system to get everything for, but you know, I have that entire thing. But beyond that, the PCFX I'm not into so much. I thought about getting it, but there's not a lot of games for it I want to play. There's a lot of anime kind of like based games, and then dating sims and kind of action reaction type games. And the PCFX like has so many of those action reaction type games that it's like essentially an action reaction system. Like, I don't know. It's just not for me, I think, the PCFX. And the X68000 is another one that's... I'm not against that. I think it's a great system, actually, but it's just expensive. It's really expensive to collect for that one. And games are rare, and systems are rare, and expensive. So it's just kind of not what I'm into, I think. Like, it's the kind of want ratio to the cost ratio is not matching up correctly. So I don't really collect for any of the lesser known stuff. I was thinking of getting into the Palladium and stuff like that too, but I just gave up because I think the cost and the how much I actually want to play that stuff doesn't match up so well. But let's see. He also asked, why did I move to Japan? So I think I answered that already, so I'm going to skip that. And do you own any American-based systems such as Atari? I actually own a ton of Atari stuff. I don't have any of it with me, but I have a 2600, a 5200, and a Jaguar. So, any other American-based systems besides the Xbox? I have a ColecoVision also. I don't have an Intellivision, but the ColecoVision was one that I really liked. A neighbor up the street who lived up the street from me when I was a kid had the ColecoVision, and we had a 5200, but I always wanted a ColecoVision more. So eventually I did get one. But also, I'm originally from Connecticut, and since Coleco is like the Connecticut leather company, it's kind of like a part of my heritage, if you will. Not really, but you know what I mean. So let's see. Number 35, AN93 Morales asks, what's your occupation in Japan? I'm a translator. I actually translate technical documents. It's not exciting, but that's what I do. Let's see, number 36, Mimic778, another Japanese YouTuber. He asks me if there have been any things in Japan that surprised me. Mostly I'm just surprised by how expensive everything is. Like, before I came to Japan, I did a lot about reading about Japan so that I wouldn't be surprised by anything, and that pretty much countered all of that stuff. I'm a big into research before I go places, I guess. I don't know. That I'm not really easily surprised by things, I think, either. So I don't really have any answer to that, but I'm still always shocked by how much I have to pay for food and stuff. It still like blows my mind every time I spend like $8 on a small packet of apples or something. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah. Number 37, Retro Swede, asks, what's your earliest video game memory, and what is the first system you own? So my first video game memory is the first time I played the Atari 2600, and that game was boxing. The same day I played a bunch of games, but boxing was the absolute first one I played, and I thought it looked like a black and a white spider fighting each other. It didn't look like boxing at all. I couldn't picture boxing. It just looked like two-armed spider creatures touching each other. It didn't make any sense, but I still liked playing it. And the other one that I played was Adventure, and I really like Adventure. It's a really simple game, but like, it's got Atari 2600 dragons that you can slay with Atari 2600 spears. That's pretty good. Adventure and boxing are my two earliest games that I played. Played them both on the same day. But what was the first system I owned? The first one that was mine and mine alone, not like just for the family, was the Nintendo, which I got for my birthday in 1985, actually. So, and I got the lowest level set. Nobody ever mentions the low level set, but it only included Mario Brothers. It didn't even include Duck Hunt. It didn't have a zapper. So I had only Mario Brothers and one game that was pro wrestling. And I love pro wrestling on the NES still. That's a good game. So let's see. He also asks, what are the must-try snacks when visiting Japan? That's a hard question. It's hard because snacks in Japan disappear at an alarmingly quick rate. They usually last about 3 months and then they're gone. So if you find something you like, it's almost immediately gone. And something has replaced it. So I can't even give an example because everything disappears so quickly. So let's see, number 38, Benji76 Show is another good channel on YouTube, so definitely check him out. But he asks, how many games do you have in your collection? I don't even know, and the problem is that I don't have them all here, and I just can't count them. Like, I have so much stuff in the US, so I have about 3 or 4, like 30-gallon like Tupperware containers filled just with games, and probably more than that in for like the PC Engine stuff I have alone is like a couple hundred, almost 400, and then I don't have a ton of other stuff. The PC Engine was my main collection, but I had like Atari 2600, 5200, Jaguar, all the Nintendo systems, PlayStation 2, Dreamcast. A bunch of handhelds, so and a lot of games for all of those. So I don't really know. I'd have to go back to the US and look at it all. So no idea. But yeah. So yeah, let's see. Number 39. Getting towards the end here. We've got Games of War. Josh, Games of War, asks, what are my chances of scoring some hot, skinny Japanese women? 0, Josh, at Games of War. Definitely 0. Done. That's the answer. No, but he asked, in all seriousness, how do you feel about the Sega CD console? The Sega CD, I'm indifferent to the Sega CD. I don't dislike the Sega CD. There's a lot of games for the Sega CD that I enjoy, but most of them I didn't play on the Sega CD. A lot of the stuff that I wanted on the Sega CD is on other consoles, and I just played it there. And I never owned a Sega CD. I had a friend who owned one, and I played some stuff there, but I don't know. The Sega CD was, it's a good idea, and it led to something like the Sega Saturn, which I absolutely love. But the Sega CD never really did it for me. At that time, I think I was playing the PC Engine so much, the TurboGrafx CD and the PC Engine imports for it, that there was no the Sega CD just couldn't match up to me for me. So I never really got into it. But after that, the Saturn was probably my favorite system. So Sega. I never even owned a Genesis until way later. Actually, now that I think about it, I didn't have a Genesis until like after the PlayStation 1 came out. So, I wasn't really into the Sega stuff except for Master System stuff because I really liked Alex Kidd. So, I don't know. I had a Master System converter for the Game Gear or Nomad. I'm not sure which one it was for. But I never owned like a actual Genesis until way later. So Sega CD I never owned. I still have never had one. And let's see. The last question, number 40. Sega Genesis 1989 asks, from your perspective, what are some of the other current issues that people in Japan face today? That's a good question, but I think a lot of people know these things. I think a lot of the worries for Japan is that like the population is aging, which is like a constant thing that comes up. There's not enough young people and not enough people having kids, so the population is shrinking and there's more old people than young people. So that's a big issue. It's constantly comes up. And there's other social issues like the kind of herbivore man type thing where people like young guys have like somehow lost the want to hook up with girls. They just want to stay home and play games or watch anime or do whatever, but they're like totally passive when it comes to meeting girls or going out. And some people I think can relate to that, but it's bad when it's like a huge percentage of your young population. So I don't know. And there's also things like right now, currently, the value of the yen is really really high, and the value of the dollar and other currencies is low. So it screws Japanese companies like that rely on exports because you notice like recently Nintendo lost a ton of money and also Sony lost a ton of money, but it has a lot to do with the value of the yen being really high. So when they sell games outside of Japan, it's not making them as much money as it used to. When the price of the yen was like 120 yen for a dollar, and now it's like 70 yen for a dollar, and you're kind of 75 or so. But even then, that's like a huge drop in like the amount of money you've been getting. And that's a huge problem for Japanese companies. So it's a huge problem for the company I work for, and also for game companies in general. So yeah, I guess I'll end it here. So yeah, that's the end of my Q&A video. It's pretty long. The first one was over 30 minutes. This one's almost 40. So what I'll do is I'll upload a third video that's just the contest results, so you don't even have to watch these Q&A videos to get the contest results if you're not interested in questions. But yeah, I'll update later with some contest results. So until then, catch you guys later.